Welcome to our program, Spiritism Inspiring Lives. Today we will be reflecting a bit about sufferings. Starting by explaining that Spiritism is a science which deals with the nature, origin, and destiny of the spirits and their interaction with the corporeal world. We are all immortal beings. So we are addressing these reflections based on a holistic transpersonal perspective. Starting by saying that Spiritism offers profound insights into human existence that sometimes challenges conventional views on life, death, morality, and spirituality. Therefore, by embracing these principles, individuals can embark on transformative journeys aimed at personal evolution while contributing to the general good as well. Surely there are different ways that we can analyze sufferings, but here we focus on this perspective of the immortal being, as we all are. Understanding that pain is a natural part of life as beings in evolution, but how we respond to it makes it all the difference. And how we respond to these experiences reflects our level of evolution that we conquered so far. Pain is invariably linked to physical aspects. As immortal beings who are reincarnated on Earth, on our journey of evolution, we are three-dimensional beings, that is, spirit, perispirit, or the astral body, and the physical body. So pain is related to our physical aspects. And pain is a blessing that helps us even to save our lives sometimes. It calls our attention what we need to address on the physical level. And suffering is moral. It has to do more with our internal psychological, emotional, spiritual dimension. While suffering is part of life too, much of it is exaggerated and unnecessary. Why is it exaggerated? Because of our immaturity or ignorance, of lack of understanding ourselves and life and experiences, or infancy. And it's unnecessary once we comprehend what is the purpose of life, what we are here for, which is to boost our high self-esteem, which is to boost our inner wisdom. Suffering serves a purpose and has roots in our evolutionary inheritance as immortal beings. We have been living many different existences already, which we went through experiences which are recorded, imprinted in our perispirit or in our astral body, which we may not remember right now here, but they are manifest through our tendencies, through our likes or dislikes, through our belief systems, through our emotional responses, and so on and so forth. It is true that sometimes we don't have the ability to avoid suffering, but we can make it meaningful. Once we awake within the inner wisdom that each one of us carries, we give meaning from the higher self onwards through each experience that we attract in order to potentialize ourselves. Eckhart Tolle, a German-born spiritual teacher, quotes, "If you had not suffered as you have, there would be no depth to you as a human being, no humility, no compassion." So there is a purpose. It is to help us to awake from within towards the inner resources, the inner potentials of the soul that we bring in germ that need to be stimulated. And that happens within each one of us gradually to the proportion that each one stimulates ourselves to try to understand life from different angles, from different perspectives. Suffering is part of life, as we mentioned, but Spiritism reframes it as a necessary aspect of a spiritual evolution. It's necessary. No one can evolve without it. Rather than fearing pain and hardship, we learn to accept suffering as a method for growth. What do we need to learn through every suffering that emerges as an internal psychic experience that is inviting me to look within myself, to navigate within my psychic, and discovering new ways how to address myself and experiences. This perspective fosters resilience, allowing us to approach difficult situations with understanding and patience. Understanding that even sometimes temporarily we may not know the precise causes of it, and also developing patience to do what is possible and accept what is not. That is awakening the wisdom within us. Understanding so that suffering, yes, exists, is real, it's part of our journey, of our education process, of our evolution, and I would even say of our healing process. Suffering arises from attachment to desires. We still are much more navigating within the pride and selfish way of being. Therefore, our desires are quite inferior and therefore bring suffering in our existences. But we can change that. We have the possibility. Suffering ceases when attachment to desire ceases. Do we know which kind of desires do we carry within? Are we willing to overcome them? Are we willing to let go? Suffering is related to the state of imperfection of the spirit, but it is attenuated with progress and disappears when the spirit overcomes matter. We are all loving beings in essence, imperfect beings perfecting ourselves. So all of us have imperfections, limitations, shadows that we carry through our experiences that we learned in the wrong way or in a limited way, which require our attention to change now. But it's so hopeful here when we see that it's related to our imperfection. It's not an invitation for us to focus on our imperfections. It is an invitation for us to look and address them so that we can overcome them in a creative way. And the sufferings are attenuated as more as we progress towards reality, towards the truth, in other words, towards love. And it will disappear when the spirit overcomes matter. A lot of our tendencies, they still are pretty much based on matter. So it's almost like matter overtakes the spirit, suffocates, suffers. But we can change that, and we will change that gradually, all of us. In that way, it diminishes anxiety around suffering by encouraging acceptance rather than resistance, leading to greater inner harmony. How much suffering may we be validating through our inner resistance that sometimes are unconscious? What are we resisting, which we need to learn to let go? Through the natural universal wisdom that is inviting us to do so. It's fundamental to understand that the vicissitudes of life are of two kinds, or if we prefer, stem from two different sources, which are important to distinguish. Some have their cause in the present day life, and others arise from our past existences. Even if you don't believe in it, even if you don't remember it, nothing changes the wisdom within us. Nothing changes that we are the inheritance of ourselves from sometimes centuries and centuries of experiences that we already went through, where we stimulated and activated and interacted through the law of cause and effect, and stimulating causes that bring the sufferings today. But a lot of sufferings, the cause is in the present existence, in using our free will in a limited, negative way, as we can see later on. Referring to the origins of earthly misfortunes, it must be recognized that many are the consequences of the unwise character and behavior of those who suffer them. Our sufferings have much more to do with our way of being than any element which is external to us. Our perception depends on our maturity or immaturity, our infancy or adulthood on the psychic level. For example, how many of us are victims of our own thoughtlessness, pride, and ambitions? How many of us suffer through our negative, limited, vicious belief systems, which we are feeding, nourishing? So we need to be attentive of that. How much suffering may we bring in our existences through our pride? That I'm the right one. The rigidity within. How many sufferings may we bring in our existences through our ambition, from an ego state of mind? How many disagreements and fatal disputes could have been avoided with the aid of a little moderation and less susceptibility? How much sufferings, confusion, conflicts may we create in our homes, with our families, with our partners, with our friends, in our workplaces, because we are too prideful. We immediately resent if things are not as we want to, like children. And we can change that. We are here to reflect about suffering, aiming to free ourselves from these habits, at least to what is possible for us to do. How many illnesses and diseases stem from intemperance and excesses of all kinds? How much sufferings may we bring? How much diseases may we create and suffer as a consequence? Through our intemperance, through our anger, rebelliousness, irritation, through our own imperfections. We can always improve, we can always dedicate some time to review our ways of being. How many parents are unhappy with their children because they did not combat their bad instincts from the early age? Either from weakness or indifference, they allowed the germ of pride, selfishness, and stupid vanity to grow in them, so causing their hearts to dry and shrivel. How many of us as parents may suffer later on in our existences because we didn't do the right, correct way to educate our children with assertiveness, saying them no when it's necessary, allowing them to suffer emotions so that they can learn to be resilient in relation to the good for all, so that they can learn to freeze not always what they want in the way that they expect it to be. It's fundamental that we reflect about that. How much suffering may we create in our existence because of the guilt conflict? Do we know that the guilt conflict is the consequences of our previous choices? Our previous choices, which are in disharmony with the universal code of harmony. So therefore, it is learning to take the responsibility for everything, what we think, what we feel, what we do, what we say, because everything is energy. And we get involved, first of all, within our way of thinking, feeling, and behaving. How many sufferings may we bring as learners of ourselves when we choose to go into the pathway of addictions, drugs, alcohol, sex, slander, the more vicious? Let's try to heal ourselves and ask for help if it's necessary. Let's engage in proposals that elevate ourselves, that renew us, that heal us. How much suffering may we bring in our existences with separations for not understanding that evolution means change, for not yet understanding or not accepting that people are free beings and they can choose even to not to be with us anymore. So when we develop our inner wisdom, we boost our self-esteem, we boost our inner confidence, we boost our inner security, our self-worth, and accept that people also have choices that sometimes may be including and sometimes excluding, but still, if we develop our own sacred identity, we will not suffer. We accept the challenges as experiences which enrich us. How much suffering can we bring in our existence through our false expectations that we hold in relation to other people, in relation to life, in relation to our families? If that is suffering, if that brings suffering, there is room for inner improvement. Once we learn that, we become wiser and we decrease the suffering. How much suffering may we create as we develop illnesses through the lack of self-care, the lack of self-worth? We don't care about ourselves. We may not be disciplined. We may not be eating healthy. We may not be exercising correctly. And that brings consequences, but they can be avoided. All our actions start in our way of thinking. So the thinking being needs to be considered here. How much suffering when we bring when we still are in the imperfect frame of mind where we still are choosing to express our jealousy or envy instead of healing ourselves from those low self-esteem aspects within, boosting us in more autonomy through taking responsibility for who we are, day by day making changes, day by day improving, day by day learning. How much suffering may we bring in our existences as a consequence of our dishonesty, dishonest with ourselves, with our partners, with our family members, in the community where we are? Dear friends, we are all constantly moving within the law of cause and effect, which is the law of love. But if we disrespect through our choices that we take, then the suffering will come as an invitation for us to bring ourselves back to the right track. How much suffering may we experience in our existences because of our indifference? Humbleness, simplicity, charity. There is a pathway. Charity meaning learning to be more benevolent from within, more indulgent, more forgiving, therefore more flexibility. How much sufferings may we bring in our experiences because we merely are still attached to material things and we suffer because we don't have it, or if we have it, we suffer for fear that we may lose them. In reality, nothing belongs to us. We are here to engage with material things in order to develop our spiritual creativity. And that brings inner safety. So let's reflect. Suffering can be a catalytic for spiritual ascension. It is through suffering that many people awaken to search for the greater purpose in life. And that is true. Suffering makes us question our beliefs and values, leading us to seek deeper answers. Through suffering, we learn important lessons about compassion, empathy, and unconditional love. Suffering helps us develop resilience and inner strength. A spiritual ascension involves transcending the ego and finding a deeper connection with the divine. Suffering leads us to question the nature of reality and to seek a broader understanding of the universe, which gives us so much answers. A spiritual ascension can bring inner peace, wisdom, and a sense of greater purpose of life, in life. Suffering can be seen as an opportunity for spiritual growth and personal transformation. When we make it a meaningful experience to us. Through this acceptance and transcendence of suffering, we can achieve a state of enlightenment and connection with the divine. Understanding that pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Let's choose to exercise the law of cause and effect responsibly. It is our choice. I wish you much peace, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.